Submit. I guess we're ready. Hello, Facebook land. We are continuing with our African American Trailblazers Spotlight on tonight. And tonight we are honored to have the retired Judge Edwin Keaton. Judge Edwin Keaton recently completed a 25-year tenure as circuit judge for the 13th Judicial Circuit of Arkansas. He graduated from Bearden High School in 1970 and graduated from the University of Arkansas in 1974 with a Bachelor of Art degree in political science. In 1977, he completed his Juris Doctorate from the University of Arkansas Law School in Fayetteville. Keaton practiced law in Camden for 21 years, served as municipal judge for Camden and Washita County from 1983 through 1998, and as East Camden Municipal Judge from 1984 to 1998. He was the first African American to be elected to a countywide judgeship in Arkansas since Reconstruction, where he was elected as municipal judge for Camden and Washita County in 1983.
And furthering with Judge Keaton's bio, he is a member of the Washita County Bar Association and the Arkansas Judicial Council. He serves on the Judicial Council Committee of Juvenile Judges and Specialty Courts. Also served in the Arkansas Judicial Council as its president in 2022. He has 15 years of volunteer service to the Boys and Girls Club of America, and he also served on the board of Bancor South, the Housing Authority of Camden, and the District Court Resources Advisory Board of the SCACAA, the Arkansas Highway Safety Systems Advisory Council, Washita Industries, the Christian Sports Association, the Foreign Language Interpreters Committee, and the Board of Certified Court Reporters. Judge Keaton is a trustee and deacon at St. Mary Baptist Church in Camden, where he serves as youth director. And I like that, working with young people. Judge Keaton and his wife Valerie have 4 children: Kimberly, Carmen, Brandon, and Byron, and 1 grandchild, Gabriel. Bless you, Judge Keaton. And before we go any further, before I give it to our daughter, Minister Attorney Jessica Yarbrough, I want to say that over the years, I have read about Judge Keaton handling various cases, read about him in the newspaper, and I did not know that eventually I would have the opportunity to invite him into my home by way of live streaming and introduce him and read a portion, just a small portion of his bio. And I want to say, before I hand it over to Jessica, our daughter, I am honored, Judge Keaton, to have you in our African American Spotlight, Trailblazer. God bless you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mom and Dad. Welcome, Judge Keaton.
Hello, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's so good to see you. And before we get started, I just want to say I hope are enjoying retirement.
I really am. You cannot imagine how much I'm enjoying it.
Wow. Well, congratulations. You certainly deserve it. So, I just want to say thank you again so much for joining us tonight. I've had the pleasure of practicing in front of Judge Keaton in his courtroom in Camden and Washita County Circuit Court, and it was just a pleasure to be in your courtroom, always professional, always with the spirit of excellence. And you definitely made a positive impact in my life as an attorney. So thank you. Thank you so much for that. So let's get started. First of all, describe your upbringing and just give us kind of the backstory on who Judge Edwin Keaton is, the backstory on your upbringing and how that upbringing brought you to where you are today.
All right. I grew up in a home with parents, mother and father in the home. Both were educators. My father also was a Baptist preacher and pastor. There were 9 of us children in the home, 5 boys, 4 girls, and I'm right in the middle. I was the middle child. And as a middle child, you can kind of get lost in the shuffle, which was a good thing for me. Sometimes things that you might slip up and do wrong might go undetected because there's so many kids in the home. But I was a middle child, 2 girls above me, 2 girls older than me, 2 younger, 2 boys older, 2 boys younger. And I was the middle child. My parents, which I think played a part in it, never spoke negatively about life in my presence, in the presence of my sisters and brothers. Even at the time as I was growing up, there was discrimination going on, but it was not discussed by my parents with us. And so it seemed like it didn't apply to me early on in life. I would have some experiences as I grew up, but initially the discrimination that I saw was far removed from me. And so I was always of the mindset that I could do and accomplish whatever I wanted to.
So based on that experience, talk about when you did begin to experience that discrimination. When did it hit home for you? I don't know if you experienced any segregation in your school, in your education, or just talk about when you actually did experience that particular discrimination.
Few points. I grew up, our school was segregated until my first grade year through my 11th grade year. It was not until my senior year in high school did we go to integrated school in Bearden, Arkansas. Some points that I guess some things that I'll mention. The time that I can recall discrimination in school, there was a Black school and there was a white school in Bearden, Arkansas. And we would get books, and our books, there was one school board, which was a all-white school board, and it was over both schools in Bearden, the Black school and the white school. And our books would be the books, when the white school would get new books, we would get their old books. And so we would get these books that were supposedly new for us, but it would have these names in the back. You know, you write your name in the book, and we wouldn't know who those people were. until later. It was not until I got over to the other school, then I started hearing about names, and I said, "Oh, these people." That explains the books. That was
Right.
one example. Then another time we went to the doctor's office, and remember, it was 9 of us. We had this station wagon. If one person was sick, my mother would load us all up, the smaller ones. She might leave the older ones at home and take us to the doctor. And so we would be sitting in the car, and the others would go inside, the sick person and my mother. And while inside, one of my older brothers would send me, go inside and see have they taken them back. You know how you go in the doctor, they call your name, you sit in the waiting area, and then they take you back to a room.
Right.
And he kept sending me in to see at least are they still in there. Well, I would go in. My mom would say, "Boy, I told you to stay in the car." And so I'd go back, and then I'd go in again, and they wouldn't be there. Well, one of the times I went in, there was a wall, and on the wall would raise a little deal in the window with wood, and that's where you would check in. You would ring the bell and check in. And so one time when I was in there, the window raised because a person came in when I did, and I looked through that office, and there was another room on the other side. The window happened to be up.
Mm-hmm.
I could see white people in that side, and then the side I was in, it was all black people. So even the doctor's office was segregated. There was another experience I had, I think 5th grade. My mother went shopping in Camden. I didn't want to go in the store. I stayed in the car. Everybody else went in. And there was this little restaurant 40 or 50 yards away from this store.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to the restaurant, naive. Remember, I didn't think any of this discrimination stuff applied. And I walked into that store, sat on the bar. It was a bar, and I sat right there and ordered a hamburger, drink, and fries. And the lady said, "Okay, Sonny." Waitress took it and put the order up and started making the order. And I could see a few couples sitting in eating. And at some point, a man came from the back. And at the time, I saw it happening, but I didn't attach any significance to it. He said something to the lady, then he went back. A few moments later, the lady came to me, who had taken my order, and said, "Sonny, your order is almost ready. You see that window right there?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "Well, go back outside and go around to that window and we'll give it to you." And so I said, "Okay." And so I got up, left, and as I'm walking, I thought about what was going on. I said, "Oh, man." And so I didn't even stop at the window. I just went back and got in the car.
Wow. That's that hits close to home. My parents have some very similar stories as to some issues that they dealt with regard to segregation, discrimination with getting the old textbooks, even sitting on the bar of a restaurant or a place where not realizing they were not supposed to be sitting there. So that's really real, and to me it speaks volumes because these are my parents, and then your generation, these are not great grandparents we're talking about here. This is very close in proximity. So it seems as though those types of things didn't happen that long ago.
That's correct. Very much so. And it's worse for me because I'm kind of have blinders on, like a horse in a race. They put the blinders on so they stay straight ahead. I don't see a lot of stuff to the side. So if people are looking crazy at me, I don't notice it. I'm focused on, I'm in there to get something to eat. I order it and I sit down and I wait. And I'm in my own little world. And I'm still like that today. There are things around me that I may not notice because I'm locked in to where I'm going. Stores come to Camden and I don't realize it's there because if I'm not headed to that place, I'm going down the street and somebody say, "Yeah, go buy so much." I said, "Where we have one of those?" They say, "Yeah, it's been here 4 years."
Well, let me ask you this. So based on those types of experiences that you encountered, how did that impact your decision to further your education at the U of A? Because I see where you went to college and law school at the U of A. Did that play any part, or did you have any reservations about going there because of the lack of diversity that you would experience?
No, there was another guy from Bearden who he was a year ahead of me. He had gone to the University of Arkansas. He's a OBGYN in Little Rock now, Dr. Rufus Thrower.
Mm.
And so he had gone to the University of Arkansas, would come home from time to time, had some conversations about him, and I had always planned to go there. And so I went. And you get there, and in some of your classes, you're the only Black person.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I've always was focused on what I was trying to achieve.
Mm-hmm.
So the blinders came in handy. It didn't impact me. I've just locked in on what I'm trying to get, where I'm trying to go, and the fact that I'm in a classroom where I'm the only Black person in the classroom, and there were a lot of those.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't faze me, because when you socially, we had a group of Black people and we all got together and did things together. So I could separate that from the classroom.
That's good. So based on those experiences, did you find yourself in a place where you felt as though you had to over exceed your professor's expectations in college and in law school?
I don't think I thought that way. I just would do the work.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't think about discrimination, even though it exists.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think about it. I didn't lock in on that. Even when my decision to go to the University of Arkansas Law School, I knew some people in undergrad. When I was in undergrad, well, they were in undergrad. Then some of them went to law school.
Mm-hmm.
And then so people would say, man, don't take this instructor. It's hard. So-and-so. It's difficult. And then one of those people, I will not call this person's name, but one of those persons went to law school, U of A Law School, graduated from U of A Law School. So when I went to U of A Law School, I heard all these stories about discrimination, about this. I said, if that person graduated from law school, I know good and well I'm gonna graduate from law school. I just had that kind of belief, and so I didn't focus on that.
Mm-hmm.
There was another guy that started the same year that I did, and he made it one semester. He had come from a HBCU undergrad, and he came up there, and he just couldn't adjust to that environment. And so one semester he checked out of law school.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Well, your experience is somewhat of the opposite of mine. I went to a predominantly white undergraduate institution at Southern Arkansas University, but then for law school, I went to Southern University
Okay.
in Baton Rouge. So, they gave us the look to your left, look to your right speech. The person sitting next to you won't be here.
Yes.
So they gave us that speech, but it was that reality was different from the actual legal profession, because you look around and you see so many people that look like you, your professors look like you, and in my mind, I would forget that the actual legal profession in and of itself is not going to be reflective of this environment that I'm in. But
Correct.
yeah, so that's an interesting perspective that you have. So let's segue into when you begin to practice law. You come back down south, you start practicing law. What type of challenges, if any, did you face as an young African American attorney in South Arkansas?
The first part was just setting up a law practice in and of itself.
Mm-hmm.
There was no one in my family or that I even knew, other than people that were in law school. At the time I was in law school, I didn't know any Black attorneys. I didn't know any Black judges, none of that. And so when I graduated, it was my call. I was going to set up a law practice in Camden, not knowing anything about anything other than what you learn in law school.
Right.
And I came, and I remember buying books. You know, you had to have the library at that time, and renting an office, furnishing it, telephone system, all of that setting up. And I remember getting up once all of that was in place and going to work, and didn't have one client, not one. And so I made the rounds visiting churches, and, you know, I think the newspaper did a story about first Black attorney and all of that, and put it in the newspaper. And then you would start getting people to come. Early on, people would come and not think that they shouldn't pay.
Of course.
I can remember a gentleman, I got real excited. He told me about this case that he got an appointment, told me about this case that he had, African-American gentleman. And I said, yes. And so you handle those type of cases? I said, I sure do. And so. He said, well, okay. And I said, well, just get me all of your information and get it to me. And he said, oh, no, I don't want you to handle the case. I have a lawyer. I just want you to look over it and make sure that he's treating me right. Yeah. And so I said, I don't do that. That type of thing. And so there were challenges. There really were challenges. It was a slow process, but I just had to keep going slow. And I built the law practice up, kind of taking everything initially that came in the door, almost.
So what would you say would be your highlight of your law practice experience?
That's difficult. Well, one thing, there was a case that I had that taught me the importance of diversified jury. To me, that was a highlight. There was a young African-American male, 18 years old, who was charged with aggravated robbery and battery in the first degree. It was alleged that he had robbed a girl on her doorstep, a white girl, in the house, stabbed her with an ice pick several times, trying to get money from her. They were students in Camden Fairview High School. Well, at that time, I think it was Fairview High School. And supposedly she identified him and said, go to school with him, that's him. I had that case. I represented that family. The mother hired me. And that case went to trial. The first time it went to trial, the jury was hung. The jury was hung 11 to 1. 11 were voting not guilty. 1 was voting guilty. A year later, the prosecutor tried that case a second time. Second time around, the jury was hung. 11 for guilty, 1 for not guilty. I was representing the young man. Now, what did that teach me? You need to know something about the two juries. First, the case that we presented at the second trial was stronger than the case that we presented at the first trial. there was an eyewitness who could show that the girl had been untruthful. Manager of the store, who was also white. We had found her. She was away. We couldn't find her for the first trial.
Mm.
She was back in town. We found her. She came and testified and gave conflicting versions of where the girl was, when she left, what time the store closed, which played right into our defense. The significant part about it, the first jury, when it was 11 voting not guilty, 1 guilty, first trial. Second trial, just the opposite. 11 voting guilty, 1 voted not guilty. It was set for a trial the third time. I won't get into that. But the composition of the jury, the first trial, the composition of the jury was 7 white, 5 black. And there was almost a fight in the jury room. The one voted not guilty was a 66-year-old white male who used the N-word in jury deliberations to the other jurors. They were trying to fix. Can't you see the girl's not telling the truth? The officer said this. The judge gave this instruction and said this, and the lawyer said this. And this man said he didn't care what the lawyer said, what those police officers said. I don't even care what the judge said. All I care about is what that little girl said. And that little girl said he did it. And if she said he did it, the N did it. We heard furniture moving as we were sitting in the courtroom waiting on the jury. And 2 black men had attempted to jump him and fight him.
Wow.
That would have been about 1979 when that trial occurred. 7 white, 5 black. Second trial, 11 white, 1 black lady, senior citizen. And I remember they came out deadlocked. And they were saying we hung up with 1. And they came out of the courtroom, and this lady came. She was sitting there with her arms crossed. You could tell she was angry. Hopelessly deadlocked. She was the sole person voting not guilty. Everybody else was voting guilty in the face of strong evidence that showed that the girl had lied at 2 different trials, as far as what time she got off, who she was with, etc. But for that 1 black lady on that jury, they would have convicted this young man.
Wow.
And the other part about it, a few years later, the victim came to my office and hired me to do legal work for her. Maybe a year after that, her mother came and I became her lawyer. But I tell that to people, to groups all the time, to say we need to serve on juries for that reason alone. It makes a difference.
Absolutely. And that was one of the questions and points that I wanted to ask you, is because so many times we hear people say, oh, I've got jury duty and I want to get out of it, not thinking about the ramifications of having equal representation or quality representation or a diverse set of jurors. It definitely makes a difference.
Absolutely, it does.
So thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing that story. So based on your experiences and dealing with various challenges, what would you say has helped you to remain focused on your goals and the things that you set out to accomplish?
Well, I'm really a self-motivated person. I have a competitive nature about myself. I've always participated in sports, even as a little kid. I could lose and lose with the right. I didn't get angry if I lost, but I hated to lose. And I would set a goal and just pursue it. Law school, undergrad, the bar exam. I just set a goal and say, I'm going to do it. I can remember times in law school where I would study for the test the next day, get a dead period. And the night before, I would stay up all night because I said, I don't have it. I need to get this. And I would keep going and keep going. And it would be, I look around, it's 7:30 and the exam gonna start at 8:30 or 8 o'clock, whatever time. And I'm up all night and go take the test. And then say I'm gonna come back and go to sleep and crash, and I wouldn't be sleeping. It's just like a time would hit and I'm just wide awake. And still to this day, I don't have to get about 5 hours sleep.
Oh, wow.
I tell people unless I'm sick, you can call me at 12 o'clock, I'm probably up. And then I'll wake up at 6, no matter what.
Wow. That's
so I'm always able to just stay focused and just go do it. If it required spending extra time, I'm gonna spend the extra time. And I'll say, well, it's got to get done, so do it. And that's always been my focus. And that's just, I think that's just who I am.
Well, I think that speaks to why you've made it so far in your career. So at what point did you aspire to become judge? What made you make the decision to say, I need to be a judge in my area?
I don't know, other than Harry Barnes was at that time, it was a municipal judge for Camden, but it had county-wide jurisdiction. It covered all of, and he became circuit judge, and that position was open, and then lawyers would discuss it. I said, I think I'm gonna run for that because you could still practice law. It was considered a part-time position. You still could maintain your law practice. And so I said, I think I'm gonna pursue it. And then there was me and the city attorney at the time and one other attorney in town. All three of us ran, and I got the most votes. But at that time, the law was that you only needed it was no runoff. A plurality won. There was a Leo Chipman in West Memphis, I believe, that won at the same time under the same circumstances. The law was changed shortly after that to require a runoff. But that's how I just decided to run and ran and won. I had a strategy that I don't tell people about. I still won't tell that strategy, but there was strategy involved from my political science studies, and I employed that strategy, and it worked.
Well, it definitely worked because of you served on the bench for quite some time. So how did you make the transition when you became, a circuit judge? So you were no longer practicing. How did you make the mental transition from, okay, I'm no longer practicing, now I'm the objective trier of fact here?
Well, that happened as I was municipal judge. And it came from an experience I had as a practicing attorney. I picked this case. I was representing the client filed a motion to suppress. And the judge ruled against me on the motion to suppress, even though I believe the facts should have required that evidence to be suppressed. And the judge had ruled against me on several occasions. And I took that, and the judge had to sign off on the appeal, a document that you then took over to circuit court in a criminal case. And the judge in some of those lower courts, they were just divided. And I didn't think that. One judge made a comment, that was on a speeding ticket. He made the comment that my client said he was not speeding, the officer said he did, he shot the radar gun and all of that. And the judge's ruling said he will find the guy guilty because this officer is a police officer and he has no reason to lie. And so that stuck with me because I said, if that's the case, no one, you don't need a judge. You just, the officer write the ticket, you just go pay and go on. You don't need a judge to make a decision and so that stuck with me. And so when I first ran, I said, I'm gonna base my decisions solely on the evidence, I'm gonna be fair, impartial, and all of that. And so that stuck with me. And so early on in the process, some of the police department officers were upset with me because some of my rulings. And I went over and met with the whole police department and told them, chief said, you'll meet? I said, oh, sure. So I came, they were all upset, asking their questions. And I said, explain my rulings. And I said this, the defendant said this. That's the evidence. The officers sound believable to me, but so did the defendant. And so if it's a dispute like that, that means the state has to lose. If both versions sound believable, the state bears the burden of proof. You didn't meet the burden of proof because I believe you, but I believe the defendant too. And so I said, I'm not saying you're not telling the truth. I'm just saying you have that burden to meet. And so that they understood that after I told them that. I said, oh no, I'm not saying you lied. I'm saying I can't flip a coin and make a decision. The state has the burden of proof to prove this beyond a reasonable doubt. Mm-hmm. That burden's not met, that's it. And so that's the way I think, that's the way I apply the law. And even in sports, sometimes pick up basketball way back in the day, I would go strictly by the rules. And so if somebody, I said, no, that didn't happen. No, you're not getting the ball. I didn't travel or whatever it was. And I would just hold the ball. And so, man, go on. I said, no, I'm not going to do that. No, I didn't do it. And so I always thought there was a right and wrong. And if you're in the right, stand by it. Mm. Mm. And I've tried to do that. Mm-hmm. Certainly as a judge. Mm-hmm. Those things out there, I just call it like I see it. And that's why they say, I said, for me, we had workshops, the judges do, where you go in and they bring people in to teach you how to manage your stress. It's a stressful jobs. And I'll be sitting at the table with 6 or 7 other judges. I said, for stress, I do this, I take walks, I do so-and-so. And I said, what do you mean? I said, a decision you make and it's a tough one and so-and-so, so-and-so. I said, what I do, I'm going to listen to the people. I'm going to listen to everything in that case. I'm going to apply the law to it and I'm going to decide. I think I decided correctly. I said, I'm not going to decide something if there's a bias. I said, I'm not going to feel pressure from one side or the other, from who the lawyers are, if it's a firm, if it's not. I said, I'm just going to listen to the case and apply the law to the facts. And when I do that, I'm finished with it. And so I don't think about it later. So I'm not stressed out over a decision that I made because I applied the law to the facts. And so I told him, I said, y'all, I'm really not stressed because I'm going to listen to the people. There have been times where it's the lawyer representing the client. I remember years ago, and then there was this man that was pro se, doing it himself. He won. I mean, because the facts and the law dictated that he should win, and he did. Apply the law to the facts and it becomes easy. I mean, that's just the way I see it.
Well, I think that's very, very important. From the lawyer's standpoint, of course, we may be in a situation where, as it seems as though there may be some favoritism toward one side or the other, whether it's the plaintiffs or the defense or whichever way. But that's commendable. And that's something that we need to see on the bench is objective application of the law and the facts. So that lets me know that, once it's over with, once you get off of the bench and take your robe off, you're not thinking about it anymore. You're going on doing whatever else you have to do because you know that you've done your due diligence. And in addition to that, your decisions affect these individuals. But you know that you've done your job as a trier of fact in such that you don't have to have any second guessing or any hesitation as to these people to whom it affects based on the decision that you made.
And the other part of that is at my retirement, there were lawyers that spoke. A couple of judges spoke. And I heard some things that I had not thought about. One lawyer told a story about he had this case before me and he lost. And he had another case before me and he lost. I think he mentioned several. And then he said one time, and I don't think he embellished a little, but he said there was a time that he came to me and said, look, Judge, why you keep ruling against me? He said, I said, get a better case. But I didn't. I don't keep track and say, well, this lawyer lost. Well, the next time he got one coming. No, it's a new case, new facts, and I'm going to decide it strictly by the law. And a couple of lawyers told stories about my rulings against them, but that didn't favor their client. So it's not against them, but didn't favor their client. And they would talk to their clients, and I would explain it, and the clients would say, yeah, I can see how you got to that point. Another judge told about a lady that lady knew the judge and came to the judge when her son had a case coming up in my court, domestic relations, and came and asked, what do you know about this judge? He said, well, I'm new myself, but I've just heard that he's fair. And so he said the lady came to him after the case and said, well, I had court in Judge Keaton's court, and now he ruled against my son, but he explained why, and I could see why he ruled that way. And she said, but after the case was over, he said some things to my son and just gave advice on, you can't live like this. You should be doing this. And she said, it was things that me as a parent, we should have told him, but and that had nothing to do with she had a lot of respect because of that. And then another, Miss Gully, she mentioned that, I'd be making all these decisions, and then I'm everywhere in the community. At ball games. She said he doesn't have no guards walking around with him or anything. But I hadn't thought about any of this, but I just, like I said, I make my decisions. I explain my decisions. And so I've always over the years, I'm everywhere in the community.
Well, that is commendable, and that is uncommon, because there you do not see judges around that much. Most keep a pretty low profile, but it's amazing that you have served the community in such a way that you have, put it all on the table, been objective, been fair, and have no issues as it relates to your decisions. So let me ask you, would you, based looking over your career and all the things that you've accomplished and looking at the landscape of the legal field now, would you still encourage minorities to go into the legal field or to even occupy judgeships?
Absolutely. It's essential. I have like 4 children, 2 daughters, 2 sons. The sons are the younger. Both of them are attorneys. And I didn't push them to that either. It was a decision that both of them made when they both went to undergrad, to college. I think one was majoring in bioengineering or something like that. The other was majoring in finance and did get a finance degree. The youngest, and he was trying to decide if he was going to play another year, because he had another year of eligibility that he could have played, go to grad school or law school. If he played another year, he was going to go to grad school while playing football. I told him I wouldn't advise you to try to play football and go to law school. I don't think that'll work. And so there was a coaching change, and he decided, I'm gonna go ahead and go to law school. The other one decided to go to law school. He was taking a business class in college, and one of his professors in that class loved the way that he wrote. And he said, have you ever thought about going to law school? And so he said, well, I hadn't thought about it. He said, the way you reason and think, he said, I think you would do great. And so that's how he ended up going to law school. I was surprised when they both said, I'm going to law school. And so they went to law school, both succeeded, did well, passed the bar exam, and they're both practicing civil with law firms in Dallas.
Awesome.
So I would encourage people to go to law school. There's a market here in South Arkansas, and it's difficult to get attorneys to come to South Arkansas. But there's a huge need for attorneys. Camden, Magnolia, El Dorado. El Dorado has a few more young attorneys than certainly Camden, but Camden needs lawyers big time. So does Magnolia. So I would encourage it, just as diverse jurors are needed. When you get a jury, I think you need the same within the legal profession. There needs to be representation for the people. And it's a great profession. I mean, it really is. You when you handle a case, even if it's not a big money case, and you succeed, you just get a good feeling. I remember as an attorney, when you win one, it's a good feeling. Get a lot of satisfaction out of serving people. And some of the cases you take, the people can't pay, but it's such a case that you might take it on, and you get a lot of satisfaction out of that.
That speaks volumes. There is a level of service involved in the legal profession for sure. And there's a certain satisfaction you get when you help someone who can't help themselves, who can't advocate and represent themselves. Even in my position as a federal defender, as an assistant federal defender, I'm not privately hired, but even as an appointed counsel, there's a level of satisfaction that I get for advocating for the underserved and the underrepresented. So you make an extremely valid point. So as we get ready to close out our interview, we're going to take a quick break for station identification, and we'll be right back with the last couple questions.
All right.
Abundant Life Ministries, located at 501 West Block Street in El Dorado, Arkansas, cordially invites you to worship with us each Sunday at 10:30 a.m. Apostle Larry W. and co-pastor Lady Jessie Yarbrough, founders. Abundant Life Ministries, the place where Jesus is Lord and you are loved. All right. Just a couple of more questions, Judge. I've enjoyed everything you've shared with us tonight. So who would you say has been the most influential person in your life?
The most would be my father. And then I had an older brother who was also influential with me in one respect. He was a neat freak way back as a young kid. And he also was very, very, very organized. So I've tried to do that. But then my father, in all other respects, raising 9 children, working 2 jobs. He pastored a church and also was a full-time educator. He was a principal, then superintendent, then I got a job with the State Department of Education and adult education, always in education, but always pastoring at the same time. And he was busy. He was going all the time. He worked and worked and worked and worked. And so I think the work ethic and just the way he carried himself respectfully, I always looked up to him.
Awesome. Beautiful. I can identify with that growing up as a PK. So I understand where you're coming from. So lastly, Judge, what words would you leave to other individuals, whether African Americans, striving to accomplish something, a goal, a dream? What words of wisdom would you leave for our viewers?
Know yourself first, and believe in yourself. Set a goal and don't get sidetracked by other people. Don't let people tell you what you can or cannot do. You should know yourself better, the best. And just once you set a goal, don't get sidetracked, do it. I don't know how else to say it other than pursue your goals, set them, and don't get sidetracked.
Absolutely. Set the goals, don't get sidetracked, and accomplish that which you have set before you.
Well, you got to be patient. I mean, don't try to go from your first job to running the company. You just got to be patient and get locked in. Sometimes people try to go so fast to get to the top. Just take your time and do every step the best you can, to the best of your ability, and keep going.
That's good. Patience is good, especially in this day and time where it seems like everything is so fast paced and social media makes things trend so quickly. But definitely employing patience, perseverance, it definitely shows that you've applied those to your life. It's evident in the success that you've had over your career, even in the community. So, Judge, we appreciate you so much for taking time out of your schedule to join us tonight. And I consider it an honor and a privilege to have sat down and had this conversation with you. And so we wish you well in your retirement. Tomorrow's Friday. So I don't know, you may be out on the greens or you may be shooting hoops. Who knows? But but whatever you do, I hope you truly enjoy it. And so thank you once again for joining us.
Thank you.
All right. Good night.
Good night.